Congress, whatever, you got to catch up. You got to catch up with what's going out there. It's great to have these innovative things, these creations like AI, okay?
Yeah.
But when you don't, and you got to fix just the regular stuff. Revenge porn, okay? Not enough states have taken that on, and that's happening too much. And it's a very real and dangerous thing. But this is a no-brainer to me. Again, I really want to know why those two.
Really? Especially
there's something going on with them, John. Come on.
You know that. Well, first of all, maybe I don't know, but then why draw attention? You're gonna lose.
Yes.
So why not just sign on with that? I don't understand what principle you're standing on in this case. Are they trying to make some sort of radical free speech argument or something like that? Again, it's not, the law doesn't track down the person who did it and send them to El Salvador or whatever. It just makes the material be taken down. I don't understand it. I'm just saying, and I don't have access to their internet search history to look into it. I don't know. And bear in mind, before we end, some states have also had different forms of legislation intended to crack down. I live in California, which does have a version like that. Georgia does as well, a number of states. So I think this is important, and it's good to see that, like Marjorie Greene voted for this. A lot of the baddies did. Hey, something good can actually happen. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today's show. Sharon, as always, pleasure to have you here on Big News Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm finding out more and more about myself. It's interesting you mentioned that Georgia has these laws because we were running to get to the concert. My daughter thought we would miss the start. I had on a sundress and I accidentally exposed myself right outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I said, oh my goodness. And I thought, what if someone took a picture? Okay, without my consent.
I'd be on the internet by now.
Yeah. So some strange things went on, but yeah. I thank you for
I'm sorry you had such a rough concert. You're full of anecdotes today. But anyway, and I hope next Wednesday we'll have an update on the saga of getting you your $400 back.
Gotta dispute it.
Anyway, for now, be well. Don't run too fast, clothing dependent. And thank you for joining us. Everybody out there, I'm gonna be joining Yasmin Ali Khan's gonna be on with me second hour in the bonus episode of the Young Turks later on today. So it should be a lot of fun. Definitely join us for that. Tomorrow is solo. It's John Solo on TDR. So definitely come and hang out there. We're gonna probably talk about charts and polls and stuff that I do. I think I have a Star Wars story that I can fit on there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And with all that said, for now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than brother from another mother, Ben Gleib. Funny man galore, TYT contributor, and Rebel HQ all-star. Always fascinating to have his analysis. Top story of the day. It's a tough one. Put him up full mask. Wrongful death lawsuit. A black 11-year-old takes his own life after being bullied by a teacher. Wrongful death lawsuit is stating a fifth grader and a fifth grade teacher. The fifth grade teacher relentlessly bullied, according to the suit, an 11-year-old child for months. And the Florida school board, quote, took no action to stop it before he took his own life. The parents of the young child who unalived himself 2 years ago are suing a Florida school board, alleging board members did nothing to stop a fifth grade teacher who mercilessly bullied the child and encouraged classmates to do the same. It gets worse. According to the Ocala News and WCJB News, parents Tika Johnson and Lewis Johnson Jr. filed a complaint against the Marion County School Board. In the wrongful death suit cited by the news outlet, the Johnsons said that their 11-year-old son, Lewis Johnson III, quote, continuously, consistently, and was relentlessly publicly bullied by his teacher. The teacher is Donna Marie White. This is when he was a student at Legacy Elementary. The complaint alleges that for several months, while engaged in an, quote, open, notorious, and protracted pattern of bullying by systematically and chronically inflicting hurt and or psychological distress on Lewis Johnson III, including but not limited to unwanted and repeated verbal humiliation and insulting behavior, and encouraging other students to engage in the same behavior against their son. While White allegedly, called Johnson stupid and told him, quote, you don't know anything. A few months before the 10-year-old's passing, Johnson's parents complained to the school administrators about White's conduct and tried to solicit help from the Marion County School Board, asking board members to schedule conferences with the elementary school's leadership. But the committee, quote, took no action. The lawsuit reads. There's more information here. You have parents who attempted to utilize the administrative remedies that are afforded to them as parents in that school system. Why are they seeking an administrative remedy? Well, because the child has spoken up. And if you know anything about young people, you know it typically takes them a while before they're comfortable to speak out against their peers or authority figures in school. So the child spoke up. That means at that point, this has risen to a level that is no longer tolerable for the child. Parents get involved. They seek remedy from the local school. They seek remedy from the school board itself, the governing authority, prior to the unthinkable happening. Johnson's parents said that as a result of the school board's negligence and their failure to address this severe bullying, their son began experiencing, quote, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, crying, nightmares, fear, anguish, and embarrassment, end quote. They claim their son, quote, felt like there was no escaping the incessant and daily public humiliation, bullying by white, leading to the 10-year-old's untimely death, April 2023. The complaint states that Johnson used a firearm to take his own life. He was rushed to the hospital where he died 2 days after he was admitted. Johnson's parents went to his school afterward, passed out prevention flyers, which also listed their allegations against White. The school district launched an investigation into the educator and interviewed more than 24 student witnesses, 12 of whom were in Johnson's class. According to the investigative report, White once allegedly told Johnson, quote, "I don't know why you're talking because you don't even know anything. You don't know nothing in this class. Isn't that right, kids?" And naturally, this is a catalyst for his peers to become bullies and partake in the bullying experience with the teacher. Students also claim White, the teacher, would get mad when a student got an answer wrong and would sometimes make remarks about students' grades in the classroom, creating public embarrassment intentionally. They also said her intimidating behavior sometimes made students cry. Now, we're talking about 10 and 11-year-olds. Okay? There are college students that could not withstand that kind of academic environment and be emotionally okay. District officials concluded that White repeatedly inflicted psychological distress on several children by verbally insulting, humiliating, and embarrassing students. White's contract with the school system was not renewed following the investigation. The Johnsons are seeking at minimum $75,000 in damages. That typically takes it to the federal courts, exclusive of interest, costs, or attorney fees. Before I go to the next part of this, the school concluded the child was bullied. They investigated, and the school says, yes, this teacher engaged in a pattern of humiliation, embarrassment. Well, what is bullying? Humiliation, embarrassment, etc. You had a bully as a teacher. Now, the irony is the parents who came to you well before this happened said it was happening. But because you decided not to correct the issue in the now, when it was presented to you initially, the blood of this child is on your hands. Put him up. Least we could do. Let's try to help the family. So we provided a link. Donate to help Lewis. You dress you can. Sorry, Ben.
I got you, Doc. This is, a tragedy beyond words. You can see the emotion on Doc. You can see the emotion, hopefully, in your own heart when you hear a story like this. For whatever reason, there are certain people that go into education and they are these like misanthrope characters. We've all had those teachers that are just terrible to kids and you don't know why they're allowed in education. And I don't know the solution. I think part of it can perhaps be we get rid of the ridiculous concept of tenure. The unions should fight for teachers' pay, for their conditions. They should not fight to keep terrible teachers in school that bully children. You know, not everybody can take that kind of thing. Some people have really soft hearts, and it's just a tragedy beyond words. I just pray that a story like this reverberates so far and deeply that it maybe, you know, hits the heart of some teachers out there that are a little bit hardened and jaded and have become bitter and mean, to maybe wake them up and realize that they are influencing the minds of very impressionable, sometimes weak, and really soft-hearted young kids, and that they should not take that lightly. I don't know if we need cameras maybe in the back of the classrooms just showing the teacher, and with audio. I mean, you don't want to have to put cameras everywhere in society to have people act like human beings. But something has to be done, because it's just beyond that, beyond, you know, any solution. It's just such a tragedy. My heart really feels so.
Yeah, it's
for Lewis and his family.
It's a tough story. It's tough for me to report it. It's tough for our producers to curate. It's tough for you to hear it. It's tougher for the family to experience it. And it's toughest for the child that had to endure it. And for the sake of the child and the family, we must tell this story. Let's put up the GoFundMe again. You can make a contribution to assist the family as they transition through this moment, as well as launch a lawsuit against the school system. The reality is, according to the investigation, the 11-year-old was not the only one adversely impacted by bullying of this teacher. There are others.
One more thought, Doc, too. You know, you put up the slogan of the Marion County School Board there that said, helping every child succeed. And enough of these corporate slogans when it comes to businesses that involve people's lives, especially vulnerable people's lives. Not everything can be about sloganeering and profits. If you're going to put a slogan about helping every child, you must take that as a solemn oath and take it very seriously. And when you hear complaints that a teacher is bullying a young child, that should be a 5-alarm fire.
Right.
Your slogan says helping every child succeed. This was an abject failure.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Those slogans for the public, it becomes a policy. You assume this is a policy dynamic associated with the care and character of the school. Obviously, that didn't happen. Just a reminder to every school teacher, most teachers are beautiful people. I was adopted by a school teacher. And sometimes some teachers forget, and I hope it's just temporarily, that we all live inside. None of us live out here. So while we may be able to say to a child that there's light at the end of the tunnel, the child, if they can only see darkness, that's all that's in that child's world, because we all live inside here, not outside.
And one more thought on that too, Doc. I mean, you all watching this just thought, you know, Dr. Ritchie, a grown man, brought to tears by the actions of this teacher and the results of them. This is a grown man, an incredibly accomplished adult human being. Just imagine the effects of it on a child.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, there you have the perfect evidence of the impact of words and actions. So
that's right.
Let's try to do better, people.
Got to do better by babies. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members.
Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, welcome back. Good to be with you. We got a lot of comments, but before we're celebrating our dear brother, Ben Gleib. Ben, tell them what we got coming up.
So I've plugged on here many times before. I do a monthly virtual show at Nowhere Studios called Gleib Off the Top. It's an escape from the real world, from the intensity of the real world. You come and you improvise with me, and it's a silly, fun time to keep your camera and mic on if you like and be part of this weird show. Well, on May 25th, coming up in just under a month, is the 5th anniversary show. You see the promo right there. We've been doing it for 5 years since the pandemic started, and it's gonna be a celebration. There'll be surprise guests, and you don't wanna miss it. The tickets right now, if you buy in advance, are just $10. And I hope you join me and be part of this virtual show. I would appreciate the support, and you'll laugh your butt off if you come join me. And I'll even offer a special promotion right now too, because separately, this is gonna sound like a joke, but it's not. So OnlyFans, which is known mostly for its adult content, is expanding to non-adult content, and they've contracted some comedians, including myself, to do a stand-up special for them. So I just did a little mini special for them. And I have an OnlyFans account that I have to contractually post 3 videos a week. They're not adult, so sorry to disappoint everybody, but it's stuff that I don't post anywhere else. It's things from my camera roll, it's alternate takes, it's exclusive stand-up clips. And if you go to onlyfans.com/Ben Gleib and subscribe to my OnlyFans, right now for the first month, there's a discount of 35%. It costs you just $6. You get access to all the videos I've posted so far, like 35 videos. Or if you sign up for the 3-month bundle, which is also discounted at like 30% off or so, and you send me in a DM a screenshot that you bought the 3-month bundle, I will give you a free ticket to my Gleib Off the Top show on May 25th. So you're spending basically nothing, maybe like $10-15 for the membership, and you get a ticket thrown in as well for
very
my
righteous
virtual show. There,
very righteous. And I guarantee you will laugh your ass off. It will be one of the greatest experiences you will have in the month of May. Ben is.
Oh, we can say ass. I didn't know we could say ass. You will laugh your ass off. I said butt like a gentleman.
You did, sir. But FCC says at the time of our broadcast, I can say the word ass.
Fantastic. You will laugh yourself a new ass. Your ass will get bigger and happier by watching my show.
Thank you, brother. All right, we'll read some of these comments. Busy B says, hello, everyone. Get ready for work, but I'll be listening. Thank you so much, Busy B, as always. Danny Dude Lito, I think. Hello, good people. Hello back to you. And Tisha Edwards. There are just no words to express my anger, frustration, and sadness I'm feeling for this family. When will enough be enough? This is too much. Yeah, it is. Braden Nelson, when a teacher joins in the bullying, it's a singular experience. And I can tell you firsthand, it is to experience evil and hopelessness. I can't imagine. And the teacher didn't join in. The teacher made the students join in. The teacher was the leader, the ringleader of the bullying itself, not a bystander that did nothing, which is typically the report when we have these kinds of reports. This time, the teacher was the ringleader. And Ilkek, why is this woman a teacher? It's a great question. All right. So the district attorney goes after lacrosse players involved in extreme hazing. This DA don't play. Put it up full mast. Let's get into it. A district attorney is giving 11 high schoolers 48 hours to surrender after incidents of extreme hazing. Now, we utilize that word hazing, but let's see if the word applies. He says if they don't turn themselves in, they will face kidnapping charges. The incident took place just last week. So we have the details. At least 11 high school students in Syracuse, New York, have 48 hours to turn themselves in or face felony charges of kidnapping for their alleged involvement in victimizing at least 5 younger lacrosse players in an incident the DA says, quote, goes way beyond hazing, end quote. So the remainder of the varsity boys lacrosse season, of the lacrosse season has been canceled. West Hill Central School District Superintendent Stephen Dunham said on Tuesday. So while the majority of the team was not involved in the incident or aware of the plans ahead of time, the superintendent said, quote, we must address the culture of the program. And the most appropriate way to do this is with a reset. Now, there are some who may say, well, this DA is being heavy-handed. No, the DA is actually being courteous because I don't know of any situation where individuals have committed kidnapping, according to the district attorney, and they get 2 days to turn themselves in for the extreme felony known as kidnapping. I don't. So they are getting a courtesy based on the proclamation from the DA's office. So among the 5 victims identified by the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office, 1 student was taken to a remote area in the county when people appeared from the woods, dressed in black and armed with what appeared to be at least 1 handgun and at least 1 knife, Fitzpatrick said. Still sounds like hazing to you? There's more. That group put a pillowcase over that student's head after they have seen the gun and the knife, then tied him up, proceeded to throw him in the trunk of the car before he was left in a wooded area in the southern part of the county, the DA said. Quote, he was eventually returned home. There was a period of time where he thought he was going to be abandoned in the middle of nowhere. You can hear that some of the individuals found it amusing, he said. He's referencing a videotape of the incident recovered during the investigation. We do not have that tape as part of the investigation currently. Quote, I've seen the videotape of what happened to this young man. It is not a rite of passage. It is not a trivial matter. I don't know how long this young man will be affected by what happened to him, Fitzpatrick added. The arrangement, he said, was to deceive the student after a lacrosse game that they were going to McDonald's and then take him home. The driver of the vehicle purported to be lost in a remote part of the county before the, quote, accomplices jumped out of the woods pretending to be kidnappers, he said. That's a lot. So here are the dynamics at play that are different. One, typically an individual who is going through some type of hazing ritual has self-volunteered this initiation process. It's already illegal to do illegal stuff, all right? So in the hazing process or the rite of passage, there should be no laws broken in violation of said initiate. But naturally, this is a deceitful scenario. It could have gone really bad. I mean, if this guy would have fought other people, if he would have took the knife out of someone's hand and stabbed somebody, if he just put a fight up, period, what would they have done to him? There's more. You put him up. So the decision on whether to press charges has been removed from the young people victimized in the case and their parents. The district attorney said, quote, this case will be prosecuted and handled in a normal course of business. In that scenario, they would not have bail set. They would be released to their parents' custody and their case would be handled in family court. Or if the individuals are too old for family court, quote, you will end this situation without a criminal conviction and a criminal record, Fitzpatrick said, okay? So at the news conference or the news briefing, the district attorney spoke directly to at least 11 people believed to be involved in the incident, saying they have a one-time 48-hour offer to turn themselves in to the sheriff's department to face the crime of unlawful imprisonment, which right now, that version is a misdemeanor. Quote, if you're tougher than me, you're a gambler and you're going to play the odds, you don't think you're going to get caught. Trust me, the men and women of the county are going to identify you, the DA said. Once again, These are courtesies typically never offered by a district attorney when people have literally snatched a human being while being armed and threw them in the trunk of a vehicle. The fact that you're being charged with a misdemeanor, which I do believe may be upgraded, at least it should be, you should run to that damn DA's office. Plead guilty immediately. Double jeopardy attached. They can't come back to you with the same crime or a similar one. Your attorneys will tell you this. You'll be arrested, quote, you'll be arrested, you'll be prosecuted as an adult, you'll be charged with the very, very serious felony of kidnapping, perhaps in the second degree. Once again, warning, caution, warning, courtesy, warning, courtesy. The incident was initially reported by a school resource officer, that is a police officer, who contacted the sheriff's department, which turned over the criminal investigation to the DA Tuesday morning. Speaking to the parents of the students who may decide not to surrender. I mean, damn, Syracuse they do things quite differently than we do in Atlanta. You're considering not turning yourself in, and there's an active warrant for your arrest. Okay, the district attorney said if the sheriff's department expends the same time and effort on the case as they would on a homicide, then don't come crying to me 2 weeks from now and say, you charged my little baby with kidnapping. Yeah, that's right. Most of my prosecutors can win cases that are on videotape, end quote. Mr. DA, put the DA back up. Mr. DA, I get it, man. You're trying, okay? You're taking into account that they are young, that there's a culture here, okay? But you're double talking. I don't think you mean to do it. You're double talking. You're saying on one hand, this is very serious and going to be treated via the normal course. Then on the other hand, you're saying things that are quite contrary to the very, very serious nature of what has happened here. There is no scenario where a husband could do this to a wife or a wife could do this to the husband. And there's all of a sudden this differential because somebody may not want to press charges. As a matter of fact, there's a remedy for that. It allows you to take those charges yourself rather than the person press them personally. And that's routinely how it's done. In this case, you have a peer group. That peer group likely has created some peer pressure so that the actual victim doesn't press charges. Well, that doesn't matter. You are the DA. You still have an obligation and the right to take those charges up yourself. The fact that they have a misdemeanor waiting for them and they have not ran to that courthouse or ran to that sheriff's department and turned themselves in is all the proof I need if I were DA to know that they think I'm playing around. Sir, you have been more than gracious, your offer. I hope to report an update on this soon. Ben, have you ever heard of someone or a group of people who are supposed to be charged with kidnapping having this many courtesies from the DA?
I have not. And I guess they probably should take it. Maybe what the parents are thinking is that, perhaps there was such a pervasive culture in this team of hazing that maybe they think that their kids were sort of coerced into doing this and that would come out and they'd end up with no record. Remains to be seen. It's sort of a tough gamble to one degree. I think that the kids who were thrown in the trunk of these cars, probably were asking for it because you can't play the mean streets of lacrosse and not expect this to happen. You can't sign up for a sport like lacrosse, a real man sport. You got a net on a stick. I mean, there's a lot there.
I didn't say this. This is Ben talking.
This is definitely me talking. This is my opinion. But I'm tired of lacrosse players trying to act like they're cool, trying to act like look, you expect this maybe in a fraternity. You don't expect this on a lacrosse team. You know, if you want to be tough, play a different sport maybe. Yeah. Hazing definitely happens. Doesn't seem like these kids were attacked, but you are right, Doc. You have to opt in to the hazing in fraternities often, even though I think hazing is very stupid in general and is not a way to really forge brotherhood. You're, I guess, signing up for what will be a crazy experience. Not telling a guy and not knowing this is part of the team, if they had no clue this was coming, throwing them in the back of the car, making them think they're being kidnapped by armed men. It's not a great prank. As far as funny pranks go, it's not particularly funny.
Right.
So there's that. I would like to also remind everybody that in the back of every trunk these days, there's a little glow-in-the-dark pull tab that you can open a trunk from inside. A lot of people don't know that. Might not help if you're tied up and your head is covered. You might not be able to see that tab. I only know that because I used to voluntarily go in the trunk of my parents' car for fun.
I was going to say, Ben, how did you get that information?
Yep. I thought it was just fun to see if I could survive it, and they would drive slow. I only did this once or twice, but it was a lot of fun. When you opt in, it's a very different story. And I will also say this, I personally have a lot of experience with being kidnapped and thrown into places I don't expect to be. That's how I end up co-hosting this show a couple times a month.
That is true, actually. But you kind of
just get a pillowcase pulled off and suddenly, I'm co-hosting Indisputable today. All right, so I feel for these kids, I really do.
Well, I hope they learn a lesson, and I think the DA is trying to teach them one. Charging them with a misdemeanor and telling them they got a few days to turn themselves in is probably not the way to affect change in their culture. All right. Okay.
Yep.
Bring updates as they come. Hell of a thing. All right. A bounty hunter, not a police, not a cop. All right. No jurisdiction whatsoever, kidnaps a woman from her home and then defies the police. Put it up full mass. This is a hell of a story. Wayne D. Lozier Jr., a Louisiana bounty hunter, has been sentenced to only 3 years in prison with credit for time served for kidnapping a woman, staying in a Missouri home, taking her to Louisiana against her will so she could face an outstanding arrest warrant. I'm going to give you the background. 2023, Lozier Jr. pleaded guilty to 1 count of kidnapping and 1 count of conspiracy to commit kidnapping. That's according to a Justice Department release. The 46-year-old has been in custody since March 31st, 2022. So his prison sentence represents time he's already served. So federal prosecutors said Lozier's conviction stems from his visit years ago to St. Peters, Missouri, to find a woman with an arrest warrant in Louisiana for what? For 4 misdemeanor offenses, and return her to St. Tammany Parish to face these 4 charges, 4 misdemeanors. The bounty hunter and his partner, Jody L. Sullivan, had been hired by a bail bonds company, to locate and apprehend the victim in this case. The bounty hunter, Lozier, first called the victim and impersonated a deputy to trick her into revealing her address. Okay. Now, even if you are a bounty hunter, just want to be clear on the rules, or a private investigator, top flight security guard, you do not have the legal right to impersonate an officer. Let's continue. May 9th, 2019. So May 9th, 2019, he and Sullivan entered the home where the victim was staying, went down to the basement where they found her, and then in her home, handcuffed her and drove her away in an SUV. Lozier also told the homeowner he did not need permission to enter the house. After the homeowner contacted police, law enforcement told the bounty hunter, "You are breaking the law and needed to return the victim to the home. But the bounty hunter refused. First of all, let's think about this in context. The police say, hey, you've just committed kidnapping. I think you need to go ahead and take the person back to their house. Okay. No, the response should be, sir, we're tracking your cell phone. You are actively engaged in kidnapping, and we're about to come to arrest you. Case solved. But they gave him a courtesy. Courtesy is, you got to take it back. No, he tells the police. After stopping at a gas station in Sullivan, Missouri, the victim sought help from the clerks and customers. But Lozier, the bounty hunter, decided to stun her with a taser and forcefully tugged her hair. Do you see why it's outrageous he only got 3 years, which equates to time served given when he was arrested? Quote, can you please help me? She says. Can you call the police, please? These are not police officers, end quote. We got snapshots from the body cam footage. Okay, so the body cam worn by Lozier was obtained by WAFB, showed the moments Lozier shocked the victim after she tried calling for help. Quote, get up. I'm not going to say it again, Lozier says after tasing the woman. You're under arrest. Get up. I don't need to be a cop to arrest you, end quote. Prosecutors state that he and Sullivan then chained the victim using handcuffs that connected to leg shackles and dragged her outside of the store. 4 misdemeanor charges. There's more. When the cops arrived, when they arrived at the scene, Lozier told them he and Sullivan were surety recovery agents licensed by the state of Louisiana. Local law enforcement had no idea that they had unlawfully taken the victim from a home in St. Peter's, probably because they did not ask. And also the victim was not able to say. Testimony and evidence at Lozier's trial revealed that he threatened the victim, telling her that he would arrange for her to be charged with a felony offense, that she would never see her children again, and that she was his property. Sounds familiar. He never took the woman back to Louisiana, but dropped her off at a detention facility in Mississippi, where she remained for about a week until she was released. After Lozier was arrested, the bounty hunter, he then violated his pretrial release conditions by possessing a firearm and continuing to apprehend fugitives in Louisiana. He was then taken back into custody. Lozier, the bounty hunter, was initially sentenced to 10 years in prison in January, but an appeals court, 10 years is much more fitting, but an appeals court overturned his conviction, citing an issue with a jury instruction at his trial. He pleaded guilty to the same charge in March. Jody Sullivan also pleaded guilty to conspiracy and kidnapping charges in 2023. She was sentenced to 5 years probation only in December of 2024. Wow. Okay, so here's the thing. To become a bounty hunter, you have to be licensed. To be licensed, you have to go through a series of training, and typically you would take a certification test per state, which informs you of very basic laws, very basic rules. Many states have carve-outs for individuals who have been police officers because they assume if you have been a cop, you know many of these laws and these rules of conduct already. Once the bounty hunter entered into that home under the false pretense of being a cop, there is no certification anymore. There is no bounty hunter. Hell, if you were the police, your badge no longer counts. You are a regular citizen entering a home illegally and kidnapping a human being. The police had 2 times to stop Lozier. They did not. He then drops her off in Mississippi rather than Louisiana. What is that about? All right, hell of a story. But Ben, I promise you, it is not the only time it has happened. And it won't be the last time, unfortunately, that it happens. But hopefully we can bring some light to it. What say you?
Yeah, I think this guy's taking his job as a bounty hunter way too seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy has got, as far as I understand it, I think he maybe still has some jail time left and the time served doesn't cover all of it. I'm not sure.
A little bit. I think he has a little time left, but he's almost out the door, if not out.
Right. So, this is just very intense. It seems like an antiquated thing in general to even have bounty hunters. I think you need to either have law enforcement funded to the point where they can apprehend people, but it seems like an old Wild West vestige sort of to have people that are like partially licensed to go and grab people, but you still have to operate within the law. This is not the Wild West if you haven't checked. So you gotta follow laws. You can't just kidnap people from their own homes. You can't pretend you're a police officer. You can't tase people and then say get up immediately, because tasing, if you're not familiar, incapacitates you for a little while. So you can't really tase somebody and then say don't be tased, essentially, because you tased them. So the law hopefully shouldn't be as lenient on this guy, and hopefully he doesn't run, because otherwise they're going to send a very aggressive bounty hunter to go and get him, and it would be what he deserves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we have more reports of this now that this particular story has become public. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Hey everyone, Mateo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Here's the inside scoop on diners in LA. You want good pastrami sandwich, you go to Factors. You want to see some people in the business, you go to Nate and Al's. You want the best variety? My secret spot's the Nosh. Now here's the inside scoop on politics and news. You go watch the Young Turks live every day at 6 o'clock Eastern.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Thankful to everyone who joins on all of our platforms. Cray Souffle says, I'm sure if those kids were basketball or football players, they'd be incarcerated immediately. It's a good point. Panic on Fuckatron. It's a professional problem. The standards for teachers in certain states are pathetic. Meanwhile, countries like Finland require a master's degree to become a teacher, and they compensate them with a professional salary. That's right. I've made this argument for years. You want a better crop of Teachers, you don't want to have a teaching shortage, pay them more money. Pay them more money. Real simple. You want them to be overeducated and underpaid. That makes no sense. Pay them more money. CD 71954, I am willing to bet that this teacher has bullied before. This is not her first rodeo. That's right. That's correct. Tyler Hackner, hazing should be banned. And Tisha Edwards, if it goes beyond extreme hazing, shouldn't it just be kidnapping? Shouldn't it be kidnapping and assault? That's right. That's it. That's what the DA said. DA said this goes beyond hazing. Well, DA, that means it's a crime, DA. That's what that means. And you are the guy elected to deal with crimes. Not hazing, but crimes. All right. President _ the Dragon. Yeah, definitely kidnapping, and they recorded it. Wow. And Scorpius Cores. They filmed it too. Yeah, that's a major crime. And talking about the bounty hunter, RJL Network says this guy needs to be behind bars for life. I mean, that's a hell of a thing. Okay, that's something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
This girl is tripping right now. So I live here, and she's not letting me in? I'm trying to find my package.
Because I actually let you in this room,
yes,
and you don't have a code.
I didn't get a code.
And so now I let you into the mail room where you don't have a code to get into the mail room.
I see somebody.
So I'm not a liability for letting somebody who don't have a code into the mail room. And so if you were to take packages because I let you in, I'm at a liability.
Which I understand.
Where is your code, sir, to get into the mail room?
You want me to generate a code?
No, you're supposed to get a code to give you access into the mail room.
I'll generate a code right now.
For letting you in.
Why are you being so difficult? I just need my package. Can I just get my package?
Hi, Nikki. We have this gentleman here who's trying to get in. Yeah. He doesn't have a code. He didn't know he needed even a code. I let him into the mail room and I'm at a liability, but he can't produce a code.
He lives here. Yeah, he does. But I can help him, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, that would be great if you can help this gentleman.
Hi.
Hi.
Let me find you.
So gentleman was helped put it up for a mask. You cannot convince me that there's a Karen in the world afraid of a black male. Every Karen we have seen for the years covering Karenicity, Karens stand toe to toe with every black male they have encountered. Now, in this case, it was interesting. So according to the tenant, he does live there, he basically just went inside of the mailroom. Now, the mailroom is not G14 classified. It is where the residents go in order to pick up their mail. It's the mail room. He did politely ask, would you like me to generate a code? In my opinion, that should have ended everything in that moment. Would you like me, even though I'm already in here? And I could easily just run past you, grab my package, and go to my place because I live here. I have the right to do all of that. You don't have a right to stop me from doing it. But do I need to generate a code? He doesn't even know her name. As a matter of fact, she may be there illegally. She may not be a tenant. He doesn't know her. See how that works? All right, Ben, I think, all right, this whole, two people, no authority, they just live in a place together. One person using the fictional authority of, I'm able to enforce something on you because I don't know you, I haven't seen you, and I think you may not live here. Well, the other person who does live there could easily say the same thing about the person they don't know. All right, what say you?
Yeah, that would be the best move, and a lot of people who are the victims of Karenicity should remember that. Just flip the tables and say, how do you have the right to do your thing? Prove your thing.
Right.
Because Karen's grabbed the upper hand by being the first to enforce rules in a very annoying way. You could just tell the annoying level of this Karen by the way she said the word code. You don't have a code. Where's your code? She's acting like she literally, like you said, this was like deep level military clearance, which as we've seen in recent news, even the military doesn't follow. We're texting war plans to everybody, but this mailroom needs to be protected at some kind of high level. He could have also gone semantics on her and flipped it and said, what are you, a female, doing in the mail room? You could have tried that approach.
All right. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The White House press pool is now doing special press briefings for MAGA. I kid you not. Put it up for a mass. Let's get into it. Very interesting. White House is now holding press briefings specifically for MAGA influencers. For the second day in a row, on Tuesday, White House press secretary held a press briefing exclusively for members of what she called the new media. Hitler would be so proud. Claiming she was fulfilling a promise she made at the start of the Trump administration to, quote, speak to all media outlets. Ma'am, where's the urban media? Oh, okay. Here's a highlight of how it went.
An accessible presidency in American history. So with that, let's kick it off. And I'm happy to take your question first, Aaron.
And I can attest to the deportations in Florida. My Uber drivers finally speak English again, so thank you for that. But my question for you is, what are the administration's plans for those who continue to defy the executive orders? Most notably, on my mind, are the ones related to what some would call trans men. I would call men masquerade as trans women, which are men masquerading as girls in girls' sports.
On 100 incredible days. And over the first 100 days, the majority of policies that we've seen from the Trump administration have been either targeted at foreign affairs, such as bringing the American hostages home or attempting to end the war between Ukraine and Russia, or on long-term goals such as cutting government spending with DOGE. What policies can we expect to see rolled out over the next few months?
Yeah, the first answer that comes to mind, Deborah, is definitely tax cuts.
In the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids. But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up. Suicide rates were up. You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully.
Y'all sound silly. Tim Pool, who was at the center of a federal probe into Russian meddling, had a question too. Here it is.
Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room.
Isn't that ironic? Okay, put it up for a mass. Well, this is the de facto Ministry of Communication, okay? All right, quote, this is our first official influencer briefing. Influencer. The press secretary said at the start of Monday's event, quote, millions of Americans are now turning to social media and independent media outlets to consume their news, and we are embracing that change and not ignoring it. Well, damn it, what was Indisputable's invite? Yeah, we just got rated by Media Matters. Top audience performer. Jordan, did you get an invite? My producer says there was no invite. Where's the invite? Okay. All right. Must be in the mail. The Trump administration's relationship with the press has been less than ideal. U.S. District Judge Trevor N. McFadden, an appointee of President Donald Trump, ruled in favor of the AP, the Associated Press, whose reporters and photographers had been excluded from White House events since February. Just got the job. Because the news agency had decided not to follow the president's executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico. That's called presidential leadership. All right, Ben, this is becoming a more extreme clown show by the second. What say you?
I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. If I had to describe this situation with the facial expression alone, it would be this. I mean, we're just living in the weirdest times. And look, they're not wrong by not ignoring the influencer world. That's very smart. You know, I think the Biden administration proved they were really too slow on that. A big part of how Trump got into office was doing these podcasts, doing Flagrant, doing Theo Vaughn, doing Joe Rogan. So that's not the issue. The issue is only having the sycophants come in so they can put their propaganda out. And they've not just done this special briefing, they've also given a few spots to these Trump-only total propaganda machine platforms like Steve Bannon's War Room, like My Pillow CEO Mike Lindell's Lindell TV, get actual White House press pool seats. Because what you want from your pillow is a news network. That's for sure. You want to get your news from your pillows, and they're asking just the most insane softball questions. Again, the press is known for their softballs sometimes. They even hid Joe Biden's mental decline. So this is a moment where we're kind of reaping what we sowed here. But to have these people, this guy dressed like Trump with his weird bleached blonde hair, you got Tim Pool, who literally was accepting Russian payment to basically infiltrate our nation on their behalf and is sitting there in the White House. It's just a really weird, scary place where MAGA has unfettered access to the White House. It's just weird. You have people in the press pool asking questions now during the full-on press briefings like, the president's in better shape than ever. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And then there was even one reporter that straight up asked, and I did this in my Rebel HQ video that just came out yesterday, straight up said, how would you like us to cover this story?
Yep.
They asked the White House how they would like to be covered. And when you ask for instructions instead of following your own journalistic integrity, you are no longer a journalist to any degree. What you are is a propaganda machine and a useful idiot. And that's where we've fallen. And so, good luck to us all.
Well said. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
Hey everyone, Mateo Scarapour here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. but it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Here's the inside scoop on diners in LA. You want good pastrami sandwich, you go to Factors. You want to see some people in the business, you go to Nate and Al's. You want the best variety? My secret spot's the Nosh. Now here's the inside scoop on politics and news. You go watch the Young Turks live every day at 6 o'clock Eastern.
All right, welcome back. We got some comments. I will read a few, running a little late on time. Diane Starr says, Karens always make me laugh. They do. And B. Brown says, that press room looks just like an SNL set. Right. All right, hell of a thing. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson says, Democrats have an anti-white system worse than Jim Crow itself. All right, here it is.
So you don't see him as the Dems' great white hope from California for 2028?
He's pretty white. I mean, it's the anti-white party. Like, they hate white people. They've been systematically disenfranchising white people from the country they were born in. They say that out loud. That's what diversity is. It's everybody but white men. So I'm not whining about it. I'm just noticing that. Much more comprehensive than Jim Crow ever was. And so for the party that did that set up this Jim Crow system, anti-white system, to nominate another white guy, I mean, maybe, but I think they'd be much happier with AOC. I don't take her that seriously.
Put him up full mass. Both at the same time. Now, as Franklin Leonard once wrote, quote, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. So Tucker Carlson's comments came during a discussion with Megyn Santa and Jesus is White Kelly about California Governor Gavin Newsom and the 2028 Democratic presidential race. Now, what are they really doing? They fear Newsom. So they set up this ridiculous argument. Well, how can they elect him? This is the anti-white party. Really? The anti-white party. The majority of Democrats are white. The majority of individuals who vote in the United States are white. The majority of leadership positions of all corporations, white. The majority of college presidents, white. The majority of people numerically in prison, white. There is no anti-white Democratic or Republican party, period. The majority of elected Democrats, white. They're trying to make this argument to dissuade individuals from selecting based on the politics of progress. They would prefer you to only consider that a person may be white or brown or black and not also consider the politics, progressive politics, from my point of view, of said individual. We care much more about policy here at Indisputable and hopefully in other places as well. All right, so for those who need a reminder about Jim Crow was the name of the racial caste system, which operated primarily, but not exclusively, in southern and border states. So this was between 1877 and the mid-1960s. Jim Crow was more than a series of rigid anti-black laws. It was a way of life. Under Jim Crow, African Americans, black folk were relegated, to the status of second-class citizens. We will call that a citizen. That's an actual word, look it up. Jim Crow represented a legitimization of anti-black racism, contextualizing the social norm. Many Christian ministers, many theologians taught that white people were the chosen people of God. Black people were cursed to be servants. And God supported racial segregation. Craniologists, eugenics, phrenologists, and social Darwinists. We had one on the program at every educational level, talked about the belief that Black folk were innately, intellectually, and culturally inferior to white folk. Routinely. They said this, and they said it was based on science. The following Jim Crow etiquette norms show how inclusive and pervasive these norms were. A Black male could not offer his hand, meaning shake the hand, with a white male because it implied being socially equal. Obviously, a Black male could not offer his hand or any other part of his body to a white woman because he would risk his life or being accused of sexual assault. Black and white people were not supposed to eat together. If they did eat together, white people were to be served first, and some sort of partition had to be placed between them both. Under no circumstances was a Black male to offer to light the cigarette of a white female. These were real laws, real gestures. The gesture implied intimacy. Black people were not allowed to show public affection toward one another in public, especially kissing, because that offended white people. Jim Crow etiquette prescribed that Black people were introduced to white people, never white people to Black people. For example, Mr. Peters, the white person, this is Charlie, the Black person that I spoke to you about. White people did not use courtesy titles of respect when referring to Black people. For example, Mr., Mrs., Miss, Sir, or Ma'am. Instead, Black people were called by their first names. Black people had to use courtesy titles when referring to white people and were not allowed to call them by their first names. If Black people rode in a car driven by a white person, the Black person sat in the back seat or the back of the truck. White motorists had the right of way at all intersections, period. Stetson Kennedy, the author of Jim Crow Guide 1990, offered these simple rules that Black people were supposed to observe in conversing with white people. Never assert or even intimate that a white person is lying. Never impute dishonorable intentions to a white person. Never suggest that a white person is from an inferior class. Never lay claim to or overly demonstrate superior knowledge or intelligence. Never curse a white person. Never laugh at a white person. Never comment upon appearance of a white female. The Jim Crow laws and system of etiquette were undergirded by violence, real and threatened. Black people who violated Jim Crow norms, for example, drinking from the white water fountain or trying to vote, would risk their homes, their jobs, and even their lives. White people could physically beat Black people with impunity. Black people had little legal recourse against any of these assaults because the Jim Crow criminal justice system was all white. Police, prosecutors, judges, juries, and prison officials. Violence was instrumental for Jim Crow. It was a method of social control. It was the most extreme forms of Jim Crow. The most extreme form was lynching. So Tuck, you mean to tell me that your propaganda of Democrats creating an atmosphere worse than Jim Crow for white folk? Come on. Grow up, man. It's ridiculous. You need to stop lying to your people. Show them some respect. All right, Ben, thoughts here.
Tucker Carlson and the Republican Party writ large these days love to see everything through a racial lens and then prescribe that it is the Democrats, that it is the other side, that is the ones that are dividing us by race. It is insane. It's so obtuse and intentionally, I think, not self-aware of these people. They're the party that must always divide upon race. They're the party that must always make sure that people who are different than white people feel inferior, feel treated differently. Leave it to a party that sees themselves as superior to tell the other party, well, you clearly hate white people. No, it's just that we don't like white people more than other groups. Hearing these Jim Crow laws read back by you, it's just stunning. It sounds like it's from some horrible dystopian novel. And this was America's reality, even in our parents' lifetimes. And obviously it all hasn't been even corrected still. And especially in certain parts of the country, still in these border states and these southern states especially, but all over. And not only are obviously these laws so ridiculous and horrendous and insulting, but it just shows you the fragility of white people back then that still sticks to Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson now. Because I'm sorry, Megyn Kelly even nodding along and smiling is the same as endorsing the words that Tucker Carlson is saying. It shows the fragility, because one of the things that you said is that these laws were put in place, these Jim Crow rules and etiquette norms because they believed that black people were intellectually inferior to white people. And then one of the things you read is a black person must never show that they are intellectually superior to white people. Right. If you're so certain that you're superior, why you got that rule in there saying, but please don't show your superiority out loud? Right. That would make us white people look very stupid. So thank God we're evolving past a lot of it, but it's a long road, it's a slow road, and the way to get past all of it is certainly not by empowering these racial lens-tinted idiots in the Republican Party that divide us further simply for gains of clicks. It's really gross. And that's right. There's always going to be an audience, but hopefully that audience shrinks more and more into the future. And that is the work. All right, dear brother, always good to have you on the show. Ben, tell people how they can follow you, continue to check out your great work. Thank you, Doc. It's so good to be with you as always. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram or X, and you can subscribe to my OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/Ben Gleib. It is not adult content, but it is stuff you can't see anywhere else on my social media. And if you get a 3-month subscription, I'll give you a free ticket to my upcoming Gleib Off the Top 5th anniversary celebration. Just DM me at Ben Gleib on Instagram with a screenshot of your 3-month sign up at onlyfans.com/Ben Gleib, and I'll give you that free ticket. Let's come celebrate, let's come hang out and relax. The world is intense, so let's let loose sometimes together. There you go. Congrats on the anniversary. All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, brother. We got more on the other side. Bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
All right, welcome back. Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. He's back in the Bullpen. We have Mr. Dakarai Larriett, who has filed a federal lawsuit, against the police for planting evidence, according to the suit. We covered it when it initially happened. Now we have an update to that case, and we have an update to Mr. Larriett. Here's a reminder of what happened.
Not had any alcohol.
Have not.
Okay. Now, how about marijuana? Because you have had that.
Excuse me?
Marijuana.
I'm sorry? I didn't understand. What did you say?
I said, how about marijuana?
No.
No marijuana?
No.
Okay. You want to hang out right here for me? I don't think I have any. Yeah, you know, I had a stash in here somewhere. I don't really know where it's at. He's gonna refuse anyway.
I think it's a combination of the THC for sure. I didn't really evaluate them, but you can definitely see a impairment for the THC, and then thinking his medication, prescribed medications affecting it too. It's amplifying the effects.
I'm gonna take him.
Now, Mr. Larriett is running for the U.S. Senate in his home state of Alabama. Sir, good to have you back on the program. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. It's so nice to be back, Dr. Richie.
It's good to have you, man. For those who may not be familiar with the initial incident, can you explain what they just saw in that video and contextualize it for us, and we'll get into the update?
Sure. In a nutshell, I was driving while black through Michigan, pulled over, no probable cause, subjected to 7 sobriety tests in the cold. I was then handcuffed, taken to a local hospital, tested negative for alcohol on spot, and then was still jailed and told that I needed to sober up for marijuana. And of course, ultimately tested negative for marijuana. And during this process, they found out that I was negative for marijuana within a week, I believe. I had my driver's license confiscated for 2.5 months.
Wow. Wow. During the video, we see the officer on the body cam go to a trunk, and the officer says something to the effect of, I know there's a stash here. Almost to suggest, if not to directly insinuate, they're looking for a stash to plant on you.
Right. It's so obvious, and the police have done everything they can to block this investigation and obstruct justice. There's so many other clues. One, why would anyone reference the word stash when they're talking about a medical supply that they use every single day for their job? Also, you mentioned them talk about me refusing. What would I possibly refuse after 7 sobriety tests in the cold? They later sit in the car and have a little conference and mention that I would need a search warrant. So that's interesting too, because in the state of Michigan, a search warrant is not needed for a breathalyzer because it's by consent state. So they clearly were looking for something to plant in my car. And in fact, when I was jailed, the trooper accused me of trafficking drugs through my stomach by ingestion.
I remember that. And what came of that conversation after the new accusation of you trafficking now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so after that, I was scanned 4 or 5 times and subjected to excessive medical testing in the facility and forced to use the restroom publicly. And it's interesting, that exchange when I was yelled at and told not to flush after using the restroom in the jailhouse inspired me to write a book. And my book is actually going to be called Don't Flush. It's coming out on June 10th this summer.
Wow. I got to say this, man, you're running for U.S. Senate. You've written a book about the experience. You are an example for so many, including myself, of how to transform a negative situation into positive energy for yourself. We will call this transmutation. You have adopted it, absorbed it, harmonized with it, and now you are utilizing it as a catalyst for your own progress. And that is the best we can do with negative circumstances and scenarios. So a lawsuit is filed.
Yes.
Tell us the status of the lawsuit today.
Yes. Well, this is the importance of due process. This is a clear picture of why we need it. And just yesterday, the Alabama State House voted to expand qualified immunity for police officers. And my situation is textbook why that should not be happening. After 6 months of back and forth, legal delays, we finally were this close to getting our day in court. And the judge decided to throw out my lawsuit. And the rationale, if you're ready for this, is I was suspicious for driving at 3 a.m. And unfortunately, sometimes innocent people end up in jail.
Wow.
And
Wait
the truth, just doing their job. They were doing their job.
Okay, that's ironic. During my law school days, we learned that judges are supposed to correct those obvious errors because you go to a court for remedy when it comes to blunders. Even if it's a blunder by way of negligence, it has to be corrected or should be corrected by the court. It doesn't have to be malicious. It just has to violate the right of the citizen somehow. So I would assume you all are going to appeal or in appeal.
Yes, so we are in appeal already immediately. We're going to fight this to the end. We're one step below the U.S. Supreme Court at this point.
Yeah.
And interestingly, we were actually assigned to mediation. So I'm so excited to hear what the police have to say for themselves in a mediation setting next month.
That is so interesting. And was this mediation ordered by the judge or something that the police volunteered to do?
Volunteered, or rather ordered by the circuit court.
Circuit court, okay.
The appeal.
Definitely want to get an update when that concludes. And just so everyone knows, in mediation, there is no binding arbitration. If people want to walk away, they can walk away from mediation at any time. Okay, let's talk about your U.S. Senate run in Alabama, of all places, hometown, dear brother.
Yes. Well, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just saw all the dysfunction happening in Washington. I saw that our leaders were not working for us. And I said, this is my moment to elevate this issue that means so much to me. Like I said, they literally just voted yesterday to expand qualified immunity. It's so relevant. You may have even heard that the police force up in Coleman, Alabama was abolished. So a grand jury in Alabama voted to abolish their police force because it was that corrupt. There was drug in there. A dispatcher died on the job from an OD. So this is so relevant. Even though this incident happened in Michigan, it's relevant down here. Now, there are other issues that are so important: healthcare, economic development, education. I'm running for all Alabamians here.
Obviously, this is what leadership looks like, exactly what you're doing. And if we can impress upon ourselves that we are the leaders that we've been waiting for, you are a shining example of that, and I thank you and I applaud you. Your U.S. Senate run in Alabama, that is obviously a tough election in the state of Alabama. What area are you from in Alabama?
Birmingham, born and raised in Birmingham, high school here. Now I went to Alabama for school, but Birmingham is home. When
I was in law school, I would leave work at 4 o'clock for Eastern time here. I would travel to Birmingham because I went to Birmingham School of Law.
Okay.
And they had the weekend class. We had to stay, and I had to stay in law school to 9 p.m. Because we had to take the same classes all day that you would take during the week. So I know you're very familiar with Birmingham School of Law.
Yes.
Okay, so your U.S. Senate run, if people want to check you out, look up your information, how can they do so?
Check us out at DakariLarriett.com, and you can Google us and find us on social media. We'd love to engage with you there, answer any questions you might have about this campaign, and any support you can offer us. We'll be looking for volunteers very soon, and obviously donations allow us to get the word out about this campaign and how we want to improve the lives of all Alabamians.
Sir, I speak for many, including myself, when I say very proud of you. All right, we look forward to the updates.
Wonderful.
Thank you, sir. All right. Remember, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.